Hey everybody, this is Benji Bruce with Speaking Lifestyle, and we are going to go over how we get speakers booked on stages and how you can duplicate our process. So this is one of the speakers here on the left. He posted that funny picture inside of our private group where he mentioned, hey, it's always a good day when you get $10,000 checks coming in the mail. So I'm going to walk you through the process of how we get guys like him booked, how we get other speakers booked on stages. I'm going to show you everything that we're doing, and all you got to do is just duplicate our process. Now, I do want to point out a little earnings disclaimer. You won't make $10,000 starting off, and building a business is freaking hard, okay? I know a lot of people out there, they talk about, oh, all you gotta do are 2 simple steps or 5 simple steps and poof, you're a millionaire. No, it's freaking hard, especially when you go at it alone. So I do want to point this out to begin with, that if you expect to do like what George did right here, you won't do that from the very get-go. If you have absolutely nothing, if you're starting from scratch, you won't be able to hit a $10,000 gig just instantly. If you've already kind of been there, you've done a lot of stuff, then maybe you could get it pretty fast. But just understand this, you're not going to be making $10,000 starting off, and building a business is hard. It doesn't matter what business you're in, it's hard. Now, my goal is that if you're already a speaker, you already have a speaking business, then my goal is to simply show you our system, our process that we use to get other speakers on stages. It's simply to help you systematize what it is you're doing to get you on stages faster and to get you on stages in a more consistent process. If you're just starting from scratch, then I'm going to show you how to do it right from the get-go, because a lot of speakers, they tend to have a website or they tend to have somewhat of a process, but they just don't do it right from the get-go. So I'm going to show you how to do it right from the start. Now, in case you want to know about me, I'm not going to go on about me forever. I hate it when webinars do that. I'm just going to show you this one slide. Basically, I built my business from the ground up. I started out as an entertainer, as you can see there on the bottom right corner where I was on TV. I've been on TV several times. I basically went in and I got hired by company events. So companies like Aflac, AAA, Remax, a ton of different companies, they hired me. They would pay anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 to bring me in as a speaker, as an entertainer. And I would just come in, I just do my thing, blow them away, and bam, I was good to go. Eventually, as you can see in the top right corner there, that's me inside of the high rise right now. Eventually I started teaching other speakers how we were getting them, or how I was getting booked on stages. Then I just started helping them get booked on stages. And so that's kind of what we're doing now. So I'm going to show you the process that I use to build out, to get hired by all sorts of companies all over the world, not just in the US, but all over the world. I'm going to show you everything that I'm doing, the entire process. And if you guys want to Google me, you can Google me. Type in Benji Bruce, go to YouTube, type in Benji Bruce, watch my old videos of me on stage, watch me doing my thing. This isn't coming from someone who's just about theory. This is coming from someone who literally has done this their entire life. I've literally never had a job other than getting myself booked on stages. Now I'm showing other speakers how we get them booked on stages, and we're going to help you out with the same process. So basically, like I said, we get speakers booked. You'll notice there on the top left, there's Bob there. Bob talks about he's celebrating his first $10,000 gig plus travel. You'll notice there on the right side, on the top right, you'll notice Kareem there. He's like, hey, you gave me advice a year ago on sticking around, connecting after you get off stage for future engagements. Then he mentioned how he booked two more gigs, 2 more events from that. Notice on the bottom left, you'll notice Elio said, hey, got my first gig. You'll notice there on the bottom right, Will, he said, look, I've already got some gigs lined up for this upcoming year, 5 events scheduled for the next year. So here's the thing. I'm going to show you the process that we use to get all these guys booked. The process that we use to get every single speaker booked is really simple. Basically, there are 2 things that you need to do to get paid speaking gigs consistently. Just 2 things that you have to focus on. I can't stress this enough. I know a lot of people, they want to focus on a ton of other things like writing a book and all that stuff. I can't stress this enough in terms of these 2 things that you need to focus on. This is what's going to get you paid gigs consistently. The 2 things are a great website and an event pipeline. Now, just because you have a website doesn't mean you have a great website. And I can't stress that enough. I've seen several speakers where they say, oh, I've got a website. And I say, yeah, but it's not good enough for you to get a $10,000 gig. It's not good enough for you to actually get on stages consistently. Your website is basically your sales page. Without a great sales page, you absolutely, positively will not get booked. And we're going to talk about how to get pictures and videos. Even if you don't have any, we're going to talk about that. The second thing you need to have in place is an event pipeline. I'm going to walk you through the pipeline pipeline that we set up for all these other speakers. I'm going to walk you through the process that we go through to contact events, to get speakers booked on stages. I'm going to walk you through our pipeline. All you got to do is just duplicate these two things: have a great website and an event pipeline. This was the first time that I realized I needed a great website. It was essentially when I got hired by Remax. You basically need to look like you're worth paying for. So I remember before Remax, I would really focus on my website, and basically, I mean, I wasn't getting hired too much, and eventually I sat down. I said, let me just build a freaking amazing website. I built an amazing website. I went back to work in terms of contacting the events. Bam! Next thing I know, Remax paid me a ton of money to come in for their event, and so that's when I realized that if you have a great website, it's easier to get booked. It's just easier in general because it's a better sales page for you. It just sells your speech a lot easier. And so that's when I started focusing on the website. When I started focusing on systems was when it was a Finland event. So I got hired for a company out in Finland, and this is when I realized that you need a repeatable process to find and contact events in any country. And so I built out a repeatable process. I used it I started using it on different countries, started contacting events in different countries. I got hired in Finland, Israel and London, got hired all over the place. But basically, it was just a repeatable process that worked in any country. It didn't really matter. So this is essentially when I realized, like, hey, it actually works. And so the first thing that we do to get you hired as a speaker is we first work on your website. This is the first thing you have to do. Basically, to get paid $10,000 to speak, you have to look like a $10,000 speaker. Write this down. Drill this into your brain. To get paid $10,000 to speak, you have to look like a $10,000 speaker. To get paid $20,000 to speak, you have to look like a $20,000 speaker. A lot of you guys out there, you have horrible websites. You know you need to improve it. You know your website makes you look like a scrub. You need to step up your game. You need to improve your website. You need to just make it a million times better, because to get paid $10,000 to speak, you have to look like a $10,000 speaker. So notice this. This is a guy from one of our from the SpeakPro Academy. This was his website before he joined, and then this was the website after he joined. So we helped him with his website. Notice, look at this versus look at this. It's a million times better. And then, of course, he posted like, hey, got my first paid keynote gig in November 2nd, right? And here's another example. This is a guy, Bob, here. Bob, I don't know if you can see on the right side. I couldn't include his entire website here. Well, I tried to, but basically on the right side, notice the pictures. Like if you look at the pictures, there's pictures of big crowds, there's logos, and his website, it makes him look like $1 million. So that's why he's worth paying for. And of course, he posted in the group. He's like, hey, celebrating my first booking of $10,000 plus travel, because I've been close a few times in the past, including travel, but not performance fee alone. First contact was a year ago, and so basically he was like, hey, I finally got a $10,000 plus travel gig, and it was all because he simply updated his website. Same thing here with George. George, remember from before when he posted this, the $10,000 check? I don't have his before website, but this is his after website. Look at the header at the very top. Look at that with that crowd, the big crowd. Look at the videos. When you just kind of glance at the website, you're like, okay, it looks like he's worth paying for, right? And so that's why he got that $10,000 gig. Same thing goes with Jonathan here. Your website comes first. The better your website, the easier it is for you to get booked on a stage. If your website looks bad, it doesn't matter how many people you contact, you simply will not get booked. So your website comes first. In fact, Jonathan, so here's his website mock-up. This was just a mock-up. His website wasn't even ready yet. He posted this inside of the group. He was like, hey, guess what? I just landed my first paid speaking gig. It's not as much money as I'd like to charge yet, but felt so good to close a deal. Sorry, I've been out of the picture lately just because my web designer's taking forever to fix my website. However, I showed the marketing manager my demo website, and he was extremely impressed. It turned out that my website was the trigger for him to agree. Bam. That's what I'm talking about, right? So he didn't even have his website finished. It wasn't even up, but he showed them this mock-up, the picture there on the right. He showed them that mock-up, and that's what did it. That's what got him the gig. I can't stress that enough. You need to improve your websites. The goal of your website is essentially get this response, right? So this is a member inside of our group. I took out her name, but she said, I honestly, so here's what happened. She contacted the event. Then they replied after her pitch. They said, I honestly don't think we could afford her. What is her fee? That is the goal of your website. You want your website to make you look so good that people say, damn, I don't think we can afford this speaker. What do they charge? Versus them saying like, you know what? Nah, no thanks. So that's the goal of your website, is to build so much value that they think that you're way out of their league. That's the goal of your website. When you can do that, then you can get tons and tons of gigs. You can fill up your calendar easily. You have to ask yourself, do you look like you're worth more than what you're asking for? That's what it comes down to. You have to think in terms of show me, don't tell me, because they're terrified of hiring a bad speaker. So the better your website, the easier it is for you to get booked. Think show me, don't tell me. You can write all sorts of stuff on your website. Nobody cares. Show me, don't tell me. I want to see that you are a great speaker. Don't tell me you're one. And the way you do that is with the pictures and the videos, which I'll talk about in just a second, but just put this into your head. Show me, don't tell me. You need videos and pictures to show them. All right. Now, what if you don't have videos or pictures though? You have to get creative. And I understand this. Like in the beginning, if you're just starting out, you don't have videos and pictures of you on stages. So it kind of sucks because you know you need them, but how do you actually get them if you're not getting on stages? Now, if you already are a speaker and you do have this stuff, then essentially it's going to come down to the overall look of your website, which we'll talk about another time. But basically, what do you do if you don't have videos or pictures? You do this, right? So you start with the website pictures. So look at the image on the left there. Look at that handsome devil right there in the purple. Oh my goodness, that guy's a handsome devil right there. And then look at the picture on the right side of the big empty room. This was essentially an event that I did. And right before the event started, I just took a picture of the big empty room with all the chairs. Now, you can essentially do this as well, right? So notice the picture on the left, it was done by a photographer, or you can just take a picture of you on a white background, but you just take a picture of you, you take a picture there on the left, and then bam, you combine them. You just do some graphic design stuff. Look at how those are combined. I didn't do anything amazing. It was literally phone apps, like phone applications on my iPhone that I created this with. And so I didn't do anything amazing. It's the apps themselves that allowed me to do this. So this is the end result, right? So you start out with two different pictures. You combine them like that. So now you have a really cool graphic design that you can use on your website. And then we put this on one of my websites. So you'll notice there on the left side, that's the entire website. And then if you scroll down, you see like the About Me section with that cool graphic image of me and then the background right there. And so by doing little things like that, you can essentially improve your website by improving the graphic design on your website. And notice the text there. It says about Benji Bruce. Benji was once called a genius. His response was, thanks, Mom. So that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. But basically, notice that it's all about the graphic design when it comes to your images on your website. Now, how do you get pictures? Well, I mean, something like inside the SpeakPro Academy, you'll notice that these are just some of the pictures. There's tons of pictures inside of there. But notice these pictures. These pictures are essentially from events that I've done where you can't really see me on a stage. You can't really see me there, but you can essentially use these for your own website. So you can take pictures of empty crowds. You can take pictures of empty rooms, take pictures like this, what I already have for SpeakPro members. You can just use this if you are a SpeakPro Academy member. But basically, there are tons of pictures like these, and you just use these to create really cool graphic design images like this, right? And so notice when you do this, what happens is this. Like notice Todd here on the left. Todd mentioned like, hey, just got my first inquiry from a new website yesterday. And so it was all because of his website. Look at the bottom. He says the advice you gave for setting up the website and what should be included was right on the money, right? So it really is, it starts with the website. Now, I want to point out that this guy here on the left, he actually had a great website from the very beginning. So he used the event finder process that I'm going to show you in just a second. It's the process that we use to get speakers on stages. He used the event finder process, right? So he got the program. He said, look, I got it, but I wasn't applying it because he's like, hey, I'm a full-time speaker in the youth market, but I've been wanting to move towards corporate so I could increase my fee, but I was just so busy with my youth marketing. I decided to stop listening to my excuses and make the time. So I started applying your approach from Event Finder on Monday. Today is Wednesday, and I just got my first paid corporate gig. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you're in corporate market, youth market, it doesn't matter. The process is the same. So if he would have used it for the youth market, he would have gotten booked on stages more and more with the youth market as well, because it doesn't really matter what market you're in. It's the same process repeated over and over. All you're doing is changing markets. The reason why he was able to get hired so fast is simply because he had a great website to begin with. So it all starts with your website. Now, what about video footage, right? What if you don't have video footage? What you do is you essentially create your own fame. So this is essentially, and I'll show you, maybe I'll show like a video or something. Let me do that real quick. But basically what I did is I essentially had a professional videographer. He came into the high rise and he started filming me as I was telling my story. So I told my story. It was just like a simple about me story of, yeah, rags to riches. We didn't have money. Now all of a sudden $100,000 a month and all that. So you're essentially telling your rags to riches story, or any type of story that you have, whether you fought cancer or whatever it is. You tell your story and you hire a professional videographer to make it look really clean, make it look really professional. And that's what you use as your main demo video. From there, you can essentially get hired and you'll take the clips from other events. But in the beginning, you create your own fame. And so if you have a professional videographer doing that for you, he's just going to make it look good. It's just going to look sexy. So that's what you have to do. You got to spend money on your professional videographer and make sure you spend money getting those photos. Now, if you're not willing to spend any money on your business, then you're just not serious about your business. I mean, literally just stop right now. If you're not willing to spend $500 to get a nice video from a professional videographer, then you are not serious about your business. If you're not willing to spend money on a photographer to get some nice photos, you are not serious about your business. It is absolutely insane that people think they can build a business without spending any money whatsoever or any time whatsoever. You have to do one or the other, or usually both. You spend a lot of time, you spend money to grow your business. You have to be willing to spend money. Now, first thing we do is we start out by helping you complete your website with all the stuff I just talked about. So we help you do that. Then we help you do this. So this is the event pipeline. This is what's going to get you booked on stages. Put this in place and you will absolutely, positively have a process for getting you on stages consistently. Put this in place and you are good to go. Now you can take screenshots of this, do whatever you want with this, but honestly, just looking at it, it's not going to do anything for you. You have to actually build this system, build this process, okay? Now, I would essentially, what happened with this process, I figured this out because I would book one gig and then I wouldn't know what to do to get hired again. So I would book a gig, usually by word of mouth. I'd book a gig and then I'd be like, well, what do I do now? How do I get another gig? And I didn't have any gigs lined up. Like I would have maybe a couple throughout the year. And I was wondering like, how do I actually get gigs? And when I book one, I'm like, all right, I did that gig. So what's next? And so that's essentially what would happen every single time. And so when I would ask other speakers, like, how are you guys getting hired? They would always say word of mouth, through referrals and things like that. What I found out, what that really means is that they have no idea. Like whenever a speaker tells you that they get gigs through word of mouth and through referrals, what they're really saying is they have no idea. They're like, I don't have a sales process. So I just kind of hope that someone maybe see me somewhere and then maybe hire me. That's literally what they're saying. And so when I realized that when people say it's word of mouth, I realized they have no idea how to get on a stage. Then I essentially started figuring stuff out on my own. And so I thought about, okay, well, what are the steps that I can take that will get me hired consistently? It's not about getting hired once, it's about getting hired consistently. So I thought about, well, how do they hire speakers? Like, what are the steps that they go through when they hire speakers? Someone says, you know what, we're doing an event. We need to bring in speakers. What actually happens after that moment? Here's what happens. Number one is they say, who do I know? So they're instantly going to hire a speaker. First thing they say is, okay, well, who have I seen before? Like, do I know any speakers, any motivational speakers? Do I know anyone that's going to be good for this year's event? So first they start out with who do they know, who have they seen, who have they talked to, who do they personally know? Then if they don't know anyone, they say, well, who do you know? So now they start asking colleagues in the company or colleagues, or let's say in college, they start asking other people. They're like, hey, so who do you know that'd be great, a great speaker for our event? Like, do you know anyone? Have you seen anyone? So that's what they do. If neither one of those works, then they go to the internet and they just do a search. They'll do a Google search, a YouTube search, maybe search on LinkedIn, but they'll do a search, right? So those are the three steps. steps, and it goes in order. It goes, who do I know? So if I know a speaker already, I'm going to bring them in. Who do you know? So if you already know a great speaker, let's bring them in. Or we don't know, so let's just go search on the internet. Let's look for websites and videos and all that. Now, knowing that, I thought, okay, what's the fastest path to get in front of someone? So knowing that if I were to get in front of them at the moment where they say, who do I know? Do I know a speaker? If I can get in front of someone at that moment, then I'm more likely to get hired. So what's the fastest path to get in front of someone? And I realized that reaching out is the fastest path to getting business. By you literally reaching out, either calling or emailing or sending an Instagram message, a Facebook message, you reaching out, that's the fastest path to get in front of someone. And so what we did is we created the process. Like notice Mike right there. Mike said, like, Benji, I'm floored by response to email number 2. Several people are asking questions about the nature of my service, and almost all of them are asking price, right? So what he did is he built out the outreach process that I'm going to show you. He built that out, and he sent out email number 2 and got tons of responses asking for price, right? And so what you have to understand that is that reaching out to businesses are the fastest way to get business. I know a lot of people, they want to sit there and create content and all that, but I mean, it's crazy. The fastest way for me to talk to someone isn't to create content and hope they see it. That's not the fastest way. The fastest way is for me to reach out directly to the person I want to talk to. That's the absolute fastest way. And it's a repeatable way. You can create systems around it. And so what you must do differently from this moment forward is you must know the difference between projects versus process. All right. I can't stress this enough. You have to know the difference between projects and process. A project is simply a to-do list with a deadline. Okay. So projects are things like, oh, let me build out my website. Let me create a business card. Let me write my book. Projects tend to be a waste of time. The only one that's not really a waste of time is building your website. Things like writing a book, your business card, all that stuff is a waste of time. I mean, I booked $30,000 gigs. I don't even have a book. Like, I'm telling you, this certain stuff is just a waste of time, right? You have to understand the difference between projects and process. If you only focus on projects, then you'll feel like you're going to be running in circles. So you'll be getting things done, but you're not moving forward. That's what happens when people work on projects. They're like, oh, I got to get my book done. And then they start working on it, but still they haven't gotten on a stage. They haven't made any money. Like, oh, all right, I gotta do this. I'm gonna give myself a month to do this. I'm gonna give myself some time to write or create a business card. Or I'm gonna give some time to do this or whatever. They're doing all these projects, these to-dos, but they're not moving forward. They're just running in circles. Now, a process is a repeatable system that produces the same outcome over and over and over again. You set it up once, and then it keeps producing the same outcome over and over and over again. Build your processes. Work on the necessary projects, but build your processes. Build a process, then repeat the steps to get hired consistently. So all you do is you complete the necessary projects, but then you focus on the systems. Focus on the process. So like a necessary project is your website. That's a necessary project. After that, you focus on the system of finding and contacting events. You focus on the system that I just showed you earlier that we're going to talk about as well, but you focus on building processes. This is the process that I built out. This is the system. And I used it to work in every country, whether it was Finland, London, Israel, doesn't freaking matter. I used it to work in every country. So this is the process that I built out. And so what happens is if you get this right, then you'll get booked consistently. Like notice Will here. I mentioned Will earlier where he said like, hey, I already have 5 events scheduled for this year or for the next year, right? It's simply because Will, he built out his process. He built out his system, all right? Now, I figured out, the way I figured out this system is I emailed events and they always responded in similar ways, right? So in the beginning, I used to call events. I would pick up the phone, I'd actually call and I'd be like, hey, who's in charge? I want to send out my stuff to you guys and all that. But I realized email is just more effective. So I started doing emails and I would email events and I realized people respond in similar ways every single time. And so they would say things like, oh, fill out this form. We only hire industry related speakers, or we don't pay speakers, or what's your price? they would always respond in similar ways. And so essentially that's what a system is. A system equals anticipation. So simply, you know what to do every day. You know every possible response that they could have. And knowing this, you create templates. So your templates have a response to everything. When they say we don't pay speakers, you have a response to that. When they say we're not interested, you have a response to that. You have a response to everything. Even when, like, let's say in the purple section there on the left, even like, let's say when you ask the event questions and they don't respond, you need follow-ups. Let's say you quote your fee. You say it's $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, and they don't respond. You follow up. You have a follow-up email for every sequence. And even when you send your contract, it's a follow-up system every single time. The process is the same every single time. Turn everything into a system. A system is simply a step-by-step process. So when you ask yourself, how do I find events? What you do is you create a keyword document, aka a system, and bam, that is your system for finding events. You have a list of hashtags, a list of keywords that you use to find events, and then you just simply open that document up when you need to find events. You use one of those methods, and bam, you have a list of 100 events for the day. Bam, it's that easy. I used to wake up every day wondering, how do I find events? How do I find events? And I realized, like, why don't I freaking systematize the thing? Why don't I create a document and I just put it all into a document? So that's what that is. That's a picture of that document, right? And so all this is inside of SpeakPro Academy. Like when you say, how often do I contact events? What do? You create a system. This is what's called a sales cadence. A sales cadence, it just lets you know, all right, day 1, I'm going to do this. Day 3, I'm going to do this. Day 20, I'm going to do this. So you want to know how often you contact events, you create a system. So like the lady there on the left, the girl on the left, we had her create her sales cadence. So she had a system for how often to contact events. If you want to know which events pay speakers, you create a system. You simply have what's called a lead score. A lead score is just a set of qualities that give you an idea of which events pay, which events are more likely to pay a speaker. Now, what you see here is, what is that, 6 of them right there? There are, I think, 17 or 18 different qualities that we have inside the SpeakPro Academy. But what you do is you create these qualities, and that lets you know which events are more likely to pay. So, for example, like here, we did this with Dave, right? And notice what Dave said. He said, look, I've booked at least one event each week and have had weeks of $16,000 and $18,000. So this was inside of our group when we were talking about everything, and he was just asking questions about his systems and stuff like that, right? And notice that he said, hey, I booked a gig, I booked at least one event each week. All because he put the system in place. When you have the system in place, that's what happens. Even when they say things like, we don't pay speakers, you have a response to it because it's all a system. I mean, people are going to say this over and over to you. They'll say, we don't pay speakers. And like here with Shara, notice that she said, I turned a don't hire speakers response into a paid USA gig using your sequence. She put the USA there because she doesn't live in the US. I can't remember which country, but she doesn't live in the US, right? And so whenever people say we don't pay, you have a response ready because, I mean, it's going to happen to you multiple times. When they ignore you, have a response ready. Look at what Andy mentioned here. Andy, he was like, hey, quick, don't give up too early story. Keynote opportunity that started warm but cooled off fast when they said they didn't have the budget. All right, think about that. A lot of people are going to tell you we don't have the budget. So here's what he did. He said, hey, we put an activity into the CRM to contact them a month later to make sure their needs were taken care of. As it turns out, when we checked in, they were still in need of a speaker and they booked us. I was ready to punt a month earlier, but since Benji pounded the CRM into my brain and we tried one last time, we bagged a keynote that I otherwise would have written off. And the investment in the SpeakPro Academy continues to pay off. So notice what Andy actually did $3 million before joining the SpeakPro Academy. That was before he joined the SpeakPro Academy. Afterwards, we systematized his process. And then at this moment, he realized, like, okay, look, what's going to happen is people are going to say we don't have the budget. What you do is you have a system. Remember, people are going to say that all the time. So you should know how to respond to it every time. So what happened was the system says, hey, when they say that, You simply put a task inside of your CRM and then you follow up later using the system. That's all you do. It's simply a process. People are always going to do the same things over and over and over. They're going to ignore you and they're going to have certain responses. You just have a process. When they don't send the contract, it's a system. You got a response ready. Like here, Bob mentioned, he was like, hey, the power of the Panda email for people who don't ever reply to you never ceases to amaze me. It gets them to write you back. All right. He says, sure, most of the time it's still a no, but today someone replied to me with an offer after sending the Panda email. All right. And so what he's talking about is basically at a certain point, you'll get to a point where you send the contract. Like it has seemed like a done deal. Then all of a sudden you just won't hear from them again. And it freaking sucks. They just ghost you. You just never hear from them again. And so what I did is I said, you know what? Let me create a process. Let me figure out what's the best response that's going to get them to write me back, because it's better for them to say no than for you to not know at all. Right. And so what I did is I created a process. I created a system in terms of a specific email that you send out. And then it almost always gets them to write you back. Like this, honestly, it's a freaking brilliant email. I got to pat myself on the back for this one. Like it's a brilliant email, the way it's worded and everything. And it almost always gets them to write you back, so you at least have an answer. And so here he's simply talking about like, look, yeah, this time they actually did book me, right? And so you just need to have a process for everything, even word of mouth. Remember earlier I mentioned word of mouth, where speakers say, oh, I get gigs through referrals and through word of mouth. They do it by accident. You need to have a system. Like here, we helped Kareem here with his systems for that. And notice there on the left where he says Benji Bruce gave some kick-ass tips on working the room after the event to pick up additional speaking gigs. And then he mentioned he picked up 2 additional speaking gigs, right? So Kareem, like he was doing a thing for the post office and he got booked multiple times with them because he used a system that we have for word of mouth. Like it's even a system for getting word of mouth and getting referrals. Everything comes down to building a process that's repeatable over and over and over again. Now you'll get booked on stages by building out your step-by-step systems. You need to understand this. You have to systematize everything, because the longer it takes you to put this in place, the harder it is for you to get hired. Because what happens is you end up focusing on the wrong things, you do the wrong things, you don't do the right things right. So the longer it takes you to put this stuff in place, the longer it's going to take you to get on a stage. So this is what happened to Will before he joined the SpeakPro Academy. He mentioned that he spent about $10,000 in direct mail. He spent it in printing and postage, employee time, spent about $10,000, and it got him 1 gig after spending $10,000, right? Which was less than half of his fee. So it was really a waste of time. And then he simply implemented our process, our system. And then of course, that's what happened is he said like, hey, I just booked 2 keynote gigs last week. And then you'll notice at the bottom there, he says, I already have 5 events scheduled for next year. So Will simply put the system in place that definitely didn't involve direct mail. He put the system in place and then bam, he got booked on stages. He's getting booked on stages consistently. It's just a matter of processes. You risk basically by not doing things right. That's what happens when you don't have the systems in place. You essentially risk by not doing things right. Now, if you build a system once, you can get hired consistently. That's what it comes down to. You just build the system once and then bam, you just repeat it over and over and over again. Like notice the picture from earlier, it's the same thing. You just repeat the process over and over and over again. And it will take you a long time to build out the systems yourself. You got to have the website, the event pipeline. You got to have at least 20 email templates. You got to have pictures of you on stage, video footage, a sales cadence so you know exactly when to contact events, a lead score to know which events pay. That's just the start of it. I mean, you need all sorts of follow-up stuff. You need all kinds of stuff. So I want to talk to you about the SpeakPro Academy, which I mentioned earlier. The SpeakPro Academy is really going to help you out. So let me show you what's inside the SpeakPro Academy. So let me show you inside of the SpeakPro Academy. Now, first off, you're going to get a lot, and I mean a lot. Like you're probably going to get overwhelmed, which is why you'll have access to our private Facebook group as well, to where inside of the Facebook group, we can talk about all sorts of problems that you're having with your website, building your website, with finding events, contacting the events. So inside of our private Facebook group, we're definitely going to go over everything. And then here, the mastermind calls, we do these these mastermind calls every single week, so you can ask questions about what it is you're doing, your specific process. So that's just for the support. All right. Now let me show you all the training. You get all these training modules. And so let me just start here with SpeakPro Academy modules. The SpeakPro modules are going to show you how to build from the ground up. So it's going to say picking your market, persuading event planners, then we go to your website, then we start doing the videos, then a business setup, and then we find and contact events, all the way to the point where you're building a team. So this is essentially what you want to start with. Then that's just one of the programs. Let me go to some of the other ones. So the SpeakPro Academy shows you how to build from scratch, everything you need. Let's see, ebooks, you're going to get a couple of ebooks. Authority is essentially going to help you. It's going to help you with inbound marketing in terms of just marketing your expertise. Here, Industry Icon is like Authority on steroids. Industry Icon shows you how to build and monetize your online following. So if you want to be in the seminar market and you want to actually sell programs, Industry Icon is going to help you do that. It helps you build the back end of your program, and it helps you sell your program like crazy. Event Finder is the process here in the middle. Event Finder is the process that is essentially going to walk you through the system of building out your prospecting system for finding and contacting events. So let's say, let me click on this program here. So like here, you'll notice you'll have all this training, right? So this is the 11-step process for building out your pipeline. And then here's all the training that you get. There's all these training, the audios, videos, and then here, this is, for example, like creating your lead score. Here's the pipeline that you're going to set up. Here are the email templates. So let me click on the email templates and I'll show you this as well. So remember this, you're going to set this up, and everything here has an email template associated with it. So you're going to put in all these email templates in your process. And that's just the Event Finder process. This is just one program, right? You have access to all these programs. The Brand Builder here, this is going to help you build out your website, help you build out your image. We're also going to talk inside of the private group. Presentation Persuasion, I think I mentioned that earlier. Maybe I didn't, but Presentation Persuasion is essentially how to build out your presentation in a way that's going to help you sell. So in case you're on a stage and you want to sell, that's what that's going to help you do. Lead gen ideas, these are just other ideas for generating leads, for getting on stages. The summit recordings, we essentially did a summit, and these recordings are like, I don't know, I think you have like 12 hours of recordings in there or something, maybe even more. The website layouts here, so when you join, I help you guys with the website. I include some layouts that you guys can use, and then here like photos and graphics that you can use. If you don't have any photos for your website, you can use our photos as well. And then like over here in the resources section, you'll notice here in the resources, there's every possible resource you can need, like email templates, a list of questions you can ask, a contract template, follow-up scripts. There's phone scripts. There's copywriting here. So like for your website, you simply use this text here on your website. There's all sorts of information and resources inside of the program. The basics is that I'm going to do whatever it takes to help you get on stages. That's pretty much what the entire program is. You get all this training here. There's tons and tons of training. Like here, even just with Industry Icon, like here, when I click on this one thing, there's tons and tons of training inside of each program. But because there's so much training, you also get access to our private Facebook group. So our private Facebook group, we go over everything that you need to talk about, everything that you need to get done, and it's essentially a group coaching. So we do that. You can post every day inside the group. Every week, every single week, we talk on the phone, and we do these group calls on the phone so we can get into more detail about what you're doing. But basically, there's no reason as to why you would not succeed other than you just don't do the work. That's literally the only reason why you can't succeed. If you join the program, I will help you out. I mean, if you go to the SpeakPro Academy, just click speakproacademy.com, and then there are different options here. So you can either join the monthly version, you can pay every month, you can pay every year, or you can get lifetime access. You guys can look at all the reviews. These are just some of them, actually. You can look at some of the reviews, some of the testimonials. I recommend you read Dave's story here. Dave actually tells you his whole story about everything that we did for him. I recommend you read Dave's story, but to be honest, I'm going to help you get on stages. It's really that simple. So join the SpeakPro Academy. I'll help you get on stages. I'll help you build your audience, and I will help you sell your programs. And like I said, I mean, here's the thing. We help you get booked. We get speakers booked on stages. You'll notice there on the left side, Bob, he mentioned he's celebrating his first 10K plus travel show. And so he got the 10K gig. Notice Elio right there on the bottom left said first paid keynote gig confirmed. Notice there on the top right, Kareem, he said, hey, thanks for giving me the advice. And then notice he booked 2 more big events. There on the bottom right corner with Will, notice he mentioned the events that he booked. 2 gigs last week, 5 events scheduled for next year. We get speakers booked. If you join the SpeakPro Academy, if you register for the SpeakPro Academy, we will help you get on stages. We will help you build your process for getting you on stages. We'll help you with your website. All you got to do is just make sure you show up to the calls, make sure you post inside of the group. I want to stress this, though, that this is not like some you'll get on stages in 2 days type thing. You have to put in the work. I can't stress this enough. If you think that you're going to come in and then someone's going to do all the work for you and poof, you're on a stage, that's not how things work. That's not how business works. You have to be willing to put in the work yourself. If you are lazy, please do not join. This will be the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life. So please do not join if you're lazy. Understand that the process works. Now it comes down to getting trained in the process, to putting your systems in place, and you will get booked on stages. We work with you whether you're a beginning speaker, whether you're a pro like some of these guys like Bob and Andy who already did tons of money before joining. It doesn't really matter where you are in your speaking career. If you're a beginner, I show you how to build right from the get-go. If you're already a pro, I show you how to systematize what you're doing so you can get on gigs or you can get on stages consistently. It's just a matter of systematizing your process to get organized around how to get on stages consistently. So join the SpeakPro Academy. It's $299 a month, or you can get the lifetime access, or you can pay $1997 for the year, $1,997 for the year, or the lifetime is essentially $4,997 for lifetime. You get access forever. All the new things that we add, you get access forever. Join the SpeakPro Academy now, and I look forward to getting you on stages.